What if I told you that the very act of defending yourself is the reason you keep losing power? That every time you explain, every time you justify, every time you try to clear your name, you don't rise, you sink. This video will dismantle one of the greatest lies you've been trained to believe, that defending yourself makes you look strong. Machiavelli understood the opposite. Defense is weakness. Silence, control, inversion. That is strength. Over the next few minutes, you're going to learn 9 reasons why powerful men never defend, why silence flips the frame, and how the refusal to explain yourself can turn enemies into performers in their own downfall. We'll uncover the psychology that governs accusations. We'll study how rulers, philosophers, and modern operators use restraint to dominate rooms, relationships, and reputations. You will see why people respect the unreadable, why they fear the man who does not explain, and why once you master this, you become untouchable. By the end of this video, you won't just understand Machiavelli's trick, you'll carry it. And once you do, the way you speak, the way you hold yourself, the way people respond to you will transform permanently. So, here's my advice. Grab a notebook and a pen, write down what strikes you, and watch until the end, because the man who absorbs this lesson will never walk into a room the same way again.
When someone attacks you, your instinct is to defend yourself. I didn't mean it. You misunderstood. That's not who I am. It feels natural, it feels noble. But Machiavelli would say, it is the moment you lose. Because the instant you defend yourself, you admit you need to. You hand over the power of judgment. You surrender your frame to theirs. The world doesn't see explanations as strength. It sees them as blood in the water. You think you're clearing your name, but to everyone else, you've just confessed that you're vulnerable enough to be questioned. Power is never about proving innocence. Power is about controlling the frame. And whoever controls the frame controls the outcome. Here's the paradox. Silence says more than words ever could. When you remain calm, composed, and unmoved, people project strength onto you. Think of history's rulers. In the courts of Florence, in the palaces of emperors, the most dangerous man was not the loudest. It was the one who spoke least, but whose silence made others uneasy. When you don't rush to defend yourself, something strange happens. Your accuser begins to second-guess themselves. They over-explain, they repeat, they escalate, and in their desperation, they reveal their weakness. Machiavelli knew this. He who explains submits. He who stays silent forces others to explain themselves. But silence is only one weapon. There's another, more subtle, more lethal. Inversion. Someone calls you arrogant? Don't explain, don't deny. Instead, tilt your head and say calmly, if that's how you see it. That one sentence destroys their attack. Why? Because it refuses to acknowledge guilt. It refuses to give them ground. And suddenly, they're left holding their own blade. You've turned the accusation into a mirror. They now look insecure, bitter, emotional. You look untouchable. This is Machiavellian judo. Never block the sword with a shield. Let the attacker fall on their own blade. Every room you walk into is an arena. People watch not just what's said, but how you respond. Someone throws a jab. You always act like you know everything. Most people laugh nervously, or they defend. But the Machiavellian operator pauses. He lets the silence breathe. He makes the whole room lean in. And then, with calm detachment, maybe just a glance, maybe nothing at all, he flips the frame. Suddenly, the attacker looks desperate, grasping, insecure. Because here's the truth. People don't remember the jab. They remember who lost composure. And silence, delivered with presence, is a blade sharper than any defense. The same principle applies in the digital world. When someone calls you manipulative, fake, or toxic, Your instinct is to type a defense. But that's how you lose. Machiavelli would tell you, never fight on the battlefield chosen by your enemy. Online, don't defend. Reframe. Someone says, "You're manipulative." You reply, "People always call you dangerous when they can't control you." What happens? You've taken their attack and turned it into a badge of honor. They look bitter. You look unshaken. And the crowd begins to question who's really in control. That's not just reputation management. That's narrative dominance. But here lies the real battlefield. Not online, not in courtrooms, inside your own mind. Most men fail here. They master their words, their posture, even their presence. But one whisper of disrespect, and they react. One compliment, and they soften. One silence, and they spiral. Machiavelli understood. The true strategist doesn't fear enemies. He fears dependency. Because once people know what moves you, anger, praise, rejection, they own you. And once you are predictable, you are no longer dangerous. Control of self is the foundation. Without it, every attack finds its mark. With it, you become unreadable, unmovable, untouchable. Rejection is not a wound, it is a filter. The weak man panics when doors close. He rushes to explain himself, to plead his case, to win approval back. But the Machiavellian man smiles. He knows rejection clarifies who belongs at his table and who doesn't. You weren't rejected, Machiavelli would whisper. They were disqualified from access to you. And here's the secret. Once filtered, your presence becomes rare. And in a world flooded with noise, rare becomes royal. Rejection is not the end. It is the proof of your value. Never defending yourself builds something more powerful than reputation. It builds aura. Think of the figures who never explain. They don't write rants. They don't argue with critics. They don't even acknowledge attacks. And yet, people respect them more. Why? Because silence in the face of accusation creates myth. When people don't know, they assume strength. They imagine danger. They fill the gaps with fear and respect. Your goal is not to be understood. Your goal is to be untouchable. And untouchable men aren't debated. They are obeyed. This is the transformation Machiavelli demanded. You stop defending, stop explaining, stop reacting. You cross a line where your very existence becomes the defense. Every silence feels deliberate. Every glance feels heavy. Every absence feels strategic. People stop seeing you as a man to be judged. They begin to see you as a force to be navigated. That is when you become dangerous. Not because you speak louder, but because you don't need to speak at all. Because in the end, Machiavelli's trick is simple. The man who never defends himself forces the world to defend him instead. This is not self-help. This is strategy. This is war. And you just learned the weapon Machiavelli kept sharpened for centuries.
Now you understand Machiavelli's hidden weapon, the truth that defending yourself is not strength, it is surrender. The man who refuses to defend himself doesn't just protect his power, he multiplies it. His silence forces the world to speak for him. His restraint makes others expose themselves. His calm detachment turns accusations into mirrors. From this moment on, never explain yourself into weakness. Never justify yourself into chains. Let your silence build your aura. Let your composure create your legend. Because when you stop defending, you stop bleeding power. And when you stop bleeding power, you become untouchable. This is not theory. This is strategy. This is war. And now, you carry a weapon most men will never understand. If this lesson struck something inside you, if it forced you to rethink how you respond to criticism and attack, then don't let it end here. Like this video, share it with someone who needs it. Follow for more lessons on power and control. And in the comments, Write what topic you want to see broken down in the next video, because the path doesn't end here. It only sharpens from this point